Hi, I'm Barry, and this is Jordan.
We're the Brownstone Boys.
This is our handmade home
In Brooklyn, New York.
So we started Brownstone Boys when we started our renovation. Jordan had the awesome idea to start blogging about it. We thought it would be something our family and friends would read, and that's pretty much it. But a lot of people read it and comment on it, and we have a lot of followers now. So it's been fun to share our story.
When we started renovation, we had so many questions about how to renovate, and we just weren't finding the right sources. So we were like, let's blog throughout our whole entire journey. And we found it was very helpful for other people in the process that we were going through. So we were looking for about 7 months for a place. We were looking all throughout Brooklyn. We knew that we wanted a brownstone. It was both of our dreams to have one.
So a brownstone is basically a row house. So they touch another house on the side. And what actually makes it a brownstone is the facade. There is brick behind the actual facade that you see, so it's a masonry building, but the actual facade is made of something called brownstone.
We spent about 7 months renovating the place.
It was a little bit of a mess too. It was chopped up into a bunch, I think it was a 5-bedroom place. They put a bedroom everywhere they could find a corner. It was a lot of paint slopped on the woodwork, and we had it all stripped. And it literally looked like someone was murdered in the place. There was stuff splattered on the wall, there was running on the floors, it was a total crime scene.
Yeah.
So we wouldn't, you want to get it done when everything else is a mess too.
Yeah. And originally we were going to strip the wood just for us to repaint it, go back to a white color, but we stripped it and it looks so beautiful and so natural in the space that we were like, we have to keep this.
Mm-hmm. We wanted to preserve as much as we could. So things like the traditional layout with the stairs having their own hallway with the wall that's traditionally there. So the entryway is one of our favorite spaces because you really know you're in a brownstone when you walk into it. It's the traditional, stairway that goes up with the original banister and that sort of thing. And this is where you can really see that original woodwork that we stripped. This door was covered in paint. It was a very sloppy job, and
every color of the rainbow was on this door.
It was a bright blue. It was a pink at one time, and it was just sloppy and dripping down. And it just came out amazing. They stripped all the paint off it, including the original hardware.
When you walk into the place, the first thing you see is this banister. When we purchased the place, it was covered layers and layers and layers of white paint. So when we stripped it, this beautiful oak wood was exposed, and we knew we wanted to save it. There was a couple pieces missing, so we went ahead and replicated the molding here on the banister, and now it's definitely the showpiece in the house.
And it's really cool because you couldn't even see this detail that was in it when it was covered in paint. So when they stripped it, we were like, wow, that's amazing. Who knew that was under there?
The kitchen is definitely something that people gravitate towards. They come in, and then next thing you know, they're just hanging out on the stools in front of our kitchen island.
We really wanted that that showstopper kitchen. So we wanted it to be very open. So we had to tear down a couple of walls to make this happen. So there was a structural wall here. We had to put this header, this beam up. There was another bedroom right next to it that we had to tear out too. So really created the open, airy, very bright feeling that we wanted to have here.
We knew we wanted an island in the middle of the space, so we went ahead with a waterfall quartz counter. My dream was always to have a farm-style sink, so we went with this apron front sink. Behind here we have a beautiful herringbone tile.
We wanted to do white. It's my fault. Jordan wanted something bright there. But
these are Barry's colors, by the way. The white, the charcoal.
Gray.
I like more color than Barry likes. I like things bright, colorful. Barry likes the same 3 colors. He loves a good charcoal
what
gray.
About gray?
So you'll see that everywhere.
Gray, dark gray?
Yeah.
We wanted there to be at least one small natural wood feature. So although all the cabinets are gray and these shelves are gray, we did this one oak shelf just to sort of echo a lot of the woodwork that's in the place and bring it into the kitchen, warm it up a little bit.
When we got the cabinets, we got this one and it had the fronts on it, but we were like, you know what, for design purposes, let's go ahead and turn it on its side. We took off the fronts and then we just kind of left it as an exposed shelf, and we think it looks really great here.
We actually built these pendants ourselves from scratch. We were looking for pendants, and the ones that we liked were thousands of dollars. It was like every one that we saw, like, this one looks great, oh, it's $2,000 each. And then the ones that were in our price range for $200 or $300 were just very generic, they were just very basic. So we decided to make them ourselves. So we actually got all of the components, We wired them ourselves. We've never done that before. So we watched a YouTube video to figure it out and completely wired them, put them together, installed them, and we haven't burned the place down yet. So we're
fingers crossed. So when we purchased this place, they had the kitchen right here in the middle of the space. It's kind of awkward. Obviously, we weren't going to do that. But because of that, when we demolished the area, the molding was affected. This place has that beautiful ornate molding from 1890, and we knew we were going to go ahead and replicate that. So we replicated all this molding to fit the original. And now this is our beautiful living room area.
So one of our favorite light fixtures in the place is this one right here. It is called a stick bulb. And it is really cool because it is made here in New York City from reclaimed material. And so this one specifically, they get the wood from water towers in Brooklyn.
Yeah.
But we thought it was a way to pay homage to Brooklyn a little bit in our place, and we love it. It fits really well over the table, looks amazing. So we are here in the master bedroom, and this is, we wanted this to be very calming, kind of like sanctuary for us. So it's in the back of the building. It's kind of like a tree house outside, lots of tree branches in the summer. So a couple of things that we did here was, it's a common problem in these Brooklyn brownstones to have the old fireplace bump out that like sticks out of the wall, and it's usually in the way for furniture placement. So we just extended it so that it centered it in the room and sort of made a backdrop for the bed. And we painted it this color, which is Night Moon from Claire Paint. I think it turned out really well. And we also had to fix the moldings here. So just to make it look like it belongs here, these are plaster moldings in this room. So it was a project to restore these moldings as well.
Another favorite thing in the master is these shelves over here. We actually took a tabletop that was sitting in our basement. We cut it to the right size. We stained the wood, and we used that wood to create these beautiful open shelves.
It is something we're pretty proud of. I'm originally from New Orleans, and so I have my reminder of home with a vintage map of New Orleans here. And then I love nautical stuff, and so this is a nautical map of New York Harbor. So just made sense for us, my old home and my...
I'm originally from Las Vegas, where there is no history, so fortunately I don't have a vintage map of Vegas in here. So welcome to the brightest room in the house. This is our guest bedroom. This mural that you're seeing behind me is an original. A good friend and old colleague of mine, Lauren Kalin, a muralist, painted this from scratch. We just told her that we kind of wanted something vintage and botanical, and she created this big showpiece in the place now. We love it.
What I thought was like the coolest part of the process is after she painted the entire mural, she went over the entire thing to give it this sort of like vintagey look and feel with wood stain.
Wood stain.
But look, it was actually a last minute decision. Like she wasn't even planning on doing that. She painted it and it looked great. And then she's like, "Do you have any wood stain?" I was like, "Why? What are we staining? Where's the wood?" And it looks like I was a little skeptical at first when she said wood stain, but I can't imagine it any other way. It looks awesome.
To tie it in, we added some other botanical posters. We added the skylight with our renovation.
All right, so welcome to our pride and joy of this renovation. We built this bathroom from scratch. It was a little weird bedroom. You couldn't even fit a bed in here. It was kind of useless space. And so we thought it was a perfect size for a bathroom. And since it was a totally new space that didn't exist before, we really wanted it to have a little bit of a vintage feel and feel like it has been here for a while. So we went with very classic, like hex floorette on the floor, classic subway tile on the wall.
Very New York. Yeah.
It's very New York. You see this tile everywhere in New York. So it is very classic. And we have, of course, the original woodwork and the shutters. Nice clawfoot tub. This is actually a new clawfoot tub, and we got a new one just because they're way lighter, even though it is cast iron. It's like a fraction of what the original ones were. And then one thing that we really love, as you saw, is this vintage door that we put in. We got this from a salvage yard, and they fit it to the space. And
yeah, we cut the space for the glass here. We found this chicken wire glass. We installed it, and then of course we just wanted to make it as vintage as possible, so we turned it into good old WC. I feel like no home is really finished. So we're looking forward to all those small...
Yeah, there's a few little things we have left. It's always going to be 98% finished.
Thanks for coming up the stoop and into our home.
See you guys soon.
I'm Allie, and this is my handmade home in Queens, New York. I'm a freelance display artist. I do production and design. I've done set design. I do a lot of styling, propping, sourcing. And when I'm not freelancing, I own a small vintage business called Curating, where I sell a curated collection of vintage and antiques, accessories, decor on Etsy. It's really hard to describe my style. I mean, I think I tend to have like a masculine aesthetic. I'm really big on color stories. My collection is from the late 1800s to present. Certain things just speak to me. Most of the time I have no idea what they are or the history about it. I just buy whatever I like and I figure it out later. That's the best part about vintage to me. It's fun. I don't take it too seriously. I think it should bring up emotions and memories. I just love funny little moments that, you know, you could just look at and smile. When I first saw the house, one of the things that made me fall in love with it was how open it is. I mean, you could see the whole length of the house from the front to the back. The view of the cemetery is one of my favorite things about the house. A lot of people don't think it's great, but I love it. We like go biking through there, we run through there. It's just a gorgeous amenity across the street. And then in the back of the house, we have a very large church, so another beautiful thing to look at. The front sunroom has been about 4 different shades of pink. It took me a really long time to find like the perfect shade that went with the wallpaper, the plants, and then like the yellows and blacks in the living room. And I just finally found this like dusty pink that I think works with everything. Finally right. Welcome to my jungle. This is the highest concentration of plants in any room of the house. It's also the sunniest. Just some old cameras that I found in Prague. I love collecting like New York World's Fair items. I just think they're so cool, like such a cool part of New York history. My parents actually got married at Flushing Meadows Park, so it's just like, I just love it. This is a planter I made from an old doll head that I use to display air plants. It's kind of fun. I mean, the house is over 100 years old, so things not being too updated and modern works with it. I think the kitchen has like a perfect vintage feel, but it's just modern enough. This kitchen backsplash came with the house. I'm in love with it. Something about it really speaks to me. Just the colors, the imagery, just like the lightning and the sun faces. And it's just like really cool and unique, and I've never seen anything like it, and I love it. So these are one of my most recent finds. They're vintage lusterware from Japan, ceramic. They're just so much fun and interactive, therapeutic. Love spinning them. Love them. I decided to paint my entire dining room blue because I wanted to do like a primary color thing in here. It's just my favorite color in the house. I feel like it goes with everything. I photograph all my products for farewell trading against it. I love it. This is Zero. He's also a part of the art. So this is a vintage bullseye mirror. I love how gold and gaudy it is, and I feel like it just really tops off the bar cart, and they're very popular in my vintage shop. Sell a lot of them. So when we first moved in, the living room was this like hot red, and there was this giant TV wall unit that took up the whole wall. It just felt so small in there. So I knew I wanted to paint it white and do like a big gallery wall around the television. That's why I chose to balance the wall out with black, because the TV is just like a black screen. Like the shiny panther kind of balances it out, and then a lot of the blacks in the artwork balance it out, so your eye is drawn around the TV rather than at the TV. The collection ranges from like the late 1800s, nothing too present. This is a piece of art from my mother, this tiger silk screen, as well as the zebra silk screen. And then these ceramic cats are old pipe rests but I hung them on the wall because I think they look so cool and I don't smoke pipe. So I have a small cabinet of curiosities, just like a random collection of things that I love. My little eyes that I use as props when I do photography for Feral Trading. I have this fun postcard that kind of spins. This is my great-grandmother in her Czechoslovakian garb. Just a very old hand-colored photo. I love it. It kind of like tells a story about me without having to say anything, and kind of just like, I hope people get the humor and things that I have displayed. So handsome.
He's been waiting for his big moment.
Yep. So this is kind of just like my entrance display of just a few photos of certain family members. My grandmother, my mother, my mom, grandma, my grandfather. He's the only boy here. Little nudie one of my grandma. Yes, the wallpaper is original to the house. Like, a lot of people would take that down before selling their house, but I'm just so happy that the old owners left it up, because I feel like it was just destined to be my wallpaper. The wallpaper starts at the front of the living room and it goes all the way upstairs. It's throughout the whole hallway and I love it. This is my peacock. He's from a pop-up display when the store closed. I got to take him home. My husband made a beautiful little perch for him to sit on. And I think he just like goes really well with the wallpaper. So it made sense. So the portrait gallery wall of bearded men, I was originally hired by a client to source all of these. When the store closed, I ended up acquiring them for my collection, and it's one of my favorite collections just because it's one theme. It's just bearded men, you know? That one's my favorite. This guy. I write everything down. I have so many notebooks. These are all just like filled with all sorts of things. I don't have a computer. I have an iPad, but I have to write everything down when I'm like sourcing or meeting with my clients. I show up with like a pencil and a notebook. So these are my books of secrets, measurements, sketches, my brain in a book. This is my little stock closet where I keep things for my vintage shop. I just recently found these little ceramic Dalmatian bookends. I just think the silhouette is beautiful. The colors also. A good mix of things, some artwork, crates, whatever I like I buy, sell it, keep it, whatever. I want people to feel like they're in a museum in a way. I want people to look at everything and like wonder what something is, like the anatomy of the hot dog cell thing. It makes me just so happy. I don't know why. Thanks for coming by. I hope to see you guys again real soon.
Hi, I'm Kate
And I'm Bill, and this is our Handmade home.
on Long Island, New York. My family goes back about 6 generations here, and this guy's from the Midwest and got dragged here to be with me.
And all 87 of her family members.
Yeah.
We balance each other quite well in our strengths. You know, I'm the one who's sitting there looking up kind of standard distances between countertops and islands and making sure everything's like kind of all balanced and where it's supposed to be. And she's the one who, you know, she's like, I have to have this countertop. This is the countertop I have to have, picking out basically and designing all of the kind of aesthetic of the place.
I'm really very unreasonable, and he's very reasonable. That's what makes us work. I started selling vintage after I started hoarding way too much vintage, and this guy was like, you gotta get some of this crap out of here. So I started selling online through Etsy, and then I started my own website, and that's what I sell through now. It's katepiercevintage.com. And basically I go to thrift stores, estate sales, and I pick up everything I like, and I keep what I really like, and I sell what just doesn't work in our house. We bought our house almost 3 years ago, and we loved the old charm of it. It was built in 1910, but it was an absolute disaster. Every little inch needed love. I don't even think it had been painted in 30 years. So we love that about it too, though. We're project people. He does all the building, I do the designing, and it's just been a labor of love.
It had great bones. The house had phenomenal bones, and we completely redesigned the space. Moved everything from the water lines, the drains, all of the. We put in new windows.
When we moved in, the kitchen had a totally different layout.
It was a long hallway, basically, from this door right here. So it was a much smaller space, much more kind of condensed
Very
space.
cramped, and it wasn't making the best use of the space.
So we really ripped it all the way down to the studs, took everything out, completely redid all of the electrical, all the plumbing, everything, and then built it back up from there.
We used a lot of vintage elements in the kitchen, like the reclaimed wood came from an 1800s barn in Connecticut.
We actually used IKEA cabinetry for 2 parts of it, and then the other part is just kind of framed out of 2x4, and then we just kind of covered it with the reclaimed wood to give it a more kind of rustic look.
So I'm a really impractical person. I have visions for spaces, and those visions are the priority. So I wanted open shelving with loads of plants on them because everyone needs plants to cook, right? I used to have glassware, plates, everything on here, and it just looked so cluttered. So slowly anything that was actually a functional part of a kitchen just started coming off of the open shelves until there were just plants. I really have a weakness for vintage glassware, and these are my favorite glasses in the world. I've only come across 3 of them in all of my years of thrifting, but they're peekaboo glasses. This guy, I saw him online at an estate sale, and I saw that he was hidden, just peeking through. I call him Ned now, but I found him and he was this original acrylic portrait in really great shape, and they charged me $10, and now he's one of my favorite pieces in our home.
The funny part is that on Halloween, Ned had got an eye patch. On Christmas, Ned had a Christmas hat. So Ned gets dressed up depending on the holiday.
He hangs with us. He parties hard. I was at an estate sale recently, and it was the home of an artist who had passed away, and all of his life's work was in the home, so there were hundreds of portraits. And I was shocked when I got to the sale and found that none of the dealers were there for the portraits. So I had the option of hundreds to choose from, and it was a little overwhelming, and I picked up 18 of them, thinking that that was a lot of portraits to bring home, and I thought, oh, I'll sell half of these, keep a couple. And then I added them to the wall, and then I realized that I didn't have enough. So now I'll be trying to find some more portraits to add. I really envisioned them covering almost every inch of the white wall. The library space is definitely my favorite, and I love just escaping in there in the very small amount of free time that I get with having 2 young children, and I love being surrounded by the books and the plants, and I think it just has enough color to be very cheerful and happy, and muted enough where you can feel relaxed in that space. So it's probably the room I'm most proud of designing. I kind of nailed exactly what I was going for, I think. I envisioned the shelves having the book collection that I've been collecting for 4 or 5 years now, but also being kind of a live plant wall. But there were some logistical issues, such as this half of the bookshelves not getting any natural light. So we found this product from Mod Sprout and their grow frames. There's a grow light inside so that I could bring the greenery onto this side of the shelves. I think my middle finger is my favorite. I found this at a estate sale that was all mid-century stuff, and it was in his basement, like man cave bar, and I just spray painted it gold, and it's my favorite. It's very welcoming. Some of my plants are actually even thrifted. This enormous euphorbia cactus thing I found at an estate sale, And they're super expensive when you get them from a nursery, but I got it for $100. And I realized it was $100 because everyone else at that sale was like, how the hell did I get this huge thing home? So we got it home by putting the thing on the back of my dad's pickup truck and me essentially hugging it, going 40 miles an hour down the road. Really, I mean, I almost gave my life for this thing, but
And then I find out about it when you roll up in the driveway and
Yeah,
say,
we
"I
didn't
need you to
know.
come get a cactus out of the truck." I'm like, all right.
that's normal for us.
That's totally normal for us. Totally normal. She's just staring at me. She likes to eat everything.
Yeah.
Literally everything.
She's eaten couches and shoes and toys and
There have been a few things that I've had to like hide after the dog has eaten it because I'm like, oh, that's not good. Like something you've just
What?
brought home, some type of vintage thing you brought home.
see, those are the things that you just don't ever tell me. Now I'm gonna be thinking, what did you eat, Ripley? What did you eat? So we have no closets on our ground floor, so we need this space to be a highly functional space, yet play into the whole design. So straight on into the kitchen where you see my orange bar stools. Picked up that same color and put it on the wall here so it would carry your eye into both spaces.
Watch your head.
So this is probably my longest running collection. They're all antique or vintage. Some people find this wall super creepy. They're like, oh, so you just have a bunch of dead people on your wall. 'Cause a lot of them are really old, but I don't see it that way. I just love the character of all of the different silhouettes, and a lot of them have the writing on the back saying what year they were made and the person's name, and I just love that sort of thing. It's a great conversation piece, and everyone that walks in the house is always immediately drawn to this wall.
Your dead people wall.
Our dead people wall.
I think we've been here for maybe a year at most, and I came home and Katie was ripping tiles off the wall in the bathroom, doing a very bad job and ripping up all the drywall underneath. So, needless to say, I had to take over after that, so that's how we got our first project started.
Yeah, so I really wanted to have a vintage dresser in the space.
From a DIY perspective, this is a perfect example of kind of implementing her vision. Obviously with the drawers, they go back and they take up the entire space, and we wanted to make sure that we could be able to put the sinks with the drains and all of the water supply in, but make the drawers still functional. So that was, we had to do basically surgery on these drawers, and some of them have sections in the middle that we can't put anything, that we just built kind of squares in or cutouts so that they go around the pipes and they're still usable.
I have so much fun with kids' spaces because you can just go wild with color and whimsy. This is our daughter Eva's room. She just turned 7, and this house bed is the only piece that came from our old house. She was 2 when we bought it, and she still loves it just as much to this day. This Russian nesting doll collection, this is how I get her to come to estate sales with me, by telling her, hey, we'll find some Russian nesting dolls. And this Art Deco fireplace I found in a really disgusting basement, and it was a project to get it all cleaned up and painted. So we're in our younger daughter Josie's room. She's about 2.5 years old.
This bed is a perfect example of Kate just falling in love with something and needing to have it in the space, because it is old enough that it's not a standard size, so we can't get a standard mattress. It's, what is it called, like 3/4?
Yeah, it's a 3/4 mattress. You have to have them special made, but I found that an RV mattress actually fits on the bed, so she has an RV mattress. I'm not the biggest fan of spaces that are just put together exactly right, or pieces that don't have the little chip or patina. I think that just adds character, and we tried to give that sort of character to every space we create. Thanks for stopping by.
And see you again soon.
When people come into our space, they usually walk in like, oh, hey, what's up? And then they'll look to the side and be like, what the? And it's like immediately very impactful and hopefully very transformative. You walk 5 steps in and you're just in another zone completely.
I'm Chatham, and this is my handmade home in Birmingham, Alabama.
Well, initially when we got the space, I was going for like a 1970s Scarface, ultra modern look, which immediately like got the can. I realized that I had too much stuff to be even like aspiring to that look. It's just ridiculous.
Like this cabinet has some fun junk in it. Practical, sensible brown dress with glasses for day-to-day wear.
So in the past, I used to have a boutique called Charm, and it was one of several boutiques that I've owned. I would go to a ton of estate sales, ostensibly to be looking for the shop, but let's face it, like the really good stuff, I would say like, oh, this is great for Charm, and then I would, of course, bring it home and hoard it and add it to the collection of knick-knack, paddywhack that you see before you to this very day. I grew up on Long Island. I collected things on the beach because I was basically a hoarder in training from like day one. They were like treasures. I mean, they felt like mermaid's treasures or something. And I still, if I see a beautiful shell at an estate sale or in an antique mall or something like that, I'll get it.
Oh, this guy here is Percy, no big deal. I don't know how Percy went out, but I know he went out a while ago, and I always kind of wanted to pet a fox. He feels really nice.
There are so many things about the things that I pick that I respond to. If it's ridiculous, I love that. If it's ghoulish a little, love that. Just out and out dumb, I love that. If it's super unusual, if it's made with very labor-intensive processes, if it's kind of a lost art, anything glittery, anything sparkly, anything kind of talismanic, it just sends me. I mean, I just love it. When I travel, I like to pack like a ridiculously small amount of stuff in a suitcase that fits under the seat, and then I bring empty collapsible bags to carry home. So going there, I'm packing like a ninja, and coming home, I'm like just loaded down with extra bags and carry-ons and having to check suitcases and all that kind of stuff.
This guy is, he's an African fetish figure, mostly from China, found it in Mexico from the flea market in Paris. And I walked around the flea market like 4 times.
You never know what you're gonna find, and the idea of being open to it and not only getting a cool souvenir, but getting a beautiful object as well is really exciting to me.
So the gallery wall was a giant pain in the ass to hang. It's my favorite DIY project of this place, because if I sit down, every time I look, I notice something else that's sort of thrilling or ridiculous or silly or funny. It's taken probably 6 months to get to this point. It took a long time. Believe it or not, there was actually editing involved.
For every single thing that's out, there's probably another thing to match it that's jammed into storage in the basement, or jammed up in a closet, or just jammed up where anything is jammable.
And cooking doesn't really happen up in this piece. So this guy is a pretty handy dandy storage spot for stuff that I'll never use, but is extremely fancy. So basically, this is a fancy paperweight and a storage box. I've always been a big fan of books. I didn't collect them for their color. I just happen to have so many books that I eventually could arrange them by color. It's kind of like trying to make a lot of sense out of nonsense.
So to create zones within the loft, we I just tried to do it through like furniture groupings, and this area that we're sitting in has the rugs, and that kind of zones it out as like kind of a chill out relaxation zone. So I think the only way to like make it look comprehensive is to group like stuff with like, and to limit the palette, because I feel like since I'm not willing to edit my stuff so much, I have to edit something about it. When people are in here, I definitely want them to feel first welcome, second kind of transformed, third, it would be kind of cool if they felt curious. Like I want them to walk around and look at these things, because I enjoy walking around and looking at all these amazing things. And if they want to open cabinets or open drawers or open whatever they want to look at, they can look at. It's all kind of joyful, even if it's not terribly well organized, or if it's a messy drawer, it's still fun to look.
Thanks for stopping by, and I'll see you guys again. Bye.
Hi, I'm Rajiv, and this is my handmade home in New York City. When people ask me what I do for a living, I say I'm a movie star. I am a washed up movie star. I kind of live an unusual life where leisure and my profession, that the lines are very skewed. Something that was a hobby for 10 years for me sometimes becomes a profession. That's why I spend a lot of time on doing the things that I love doing. I started a business about 10 years ago doing calligraphy called Letters in Ink. I was originally doing things like wedding invitations, and then one day a friend suggested that I approach some local cafes and restaurants about redoing their chalkboards. Going into restaurants and saying like, hey, can I redo that chalkboard? They'd be like, why? Because it's ugly and I can make it beautiful and maybe it'll help your business. How much? Nothing. Okay, knock yourself out. So I'd do it, and then I'd leave my business card, and then it would rain. And when it would rain, I would get a phone call. Hey, can you come back and do that chalkboard? And that's when I would charge them. I got some press, and then word spread, and I carved out a little niche for myself. When I think about the projects that really stand out over the last 10 years, the main one is this room that I completely covered in chalk for the Kips Bay Show House. I worked on that project for about a week, night and day, and then it was open to the public. And the question that everybody asked was, can I touch it? And we said, absolutely, touch it and see what happens. There was this tension between the people in the room and the walls. A lot of people didn't believe that it was real chalk. They thought maybe it was chalk and that we had sprayed it with some kind of spray. And I never do that. If you spray chalk work, you lose a lot of the powdery edges. And we wanted it to be impermanent. We wanted people to understand that you put it up, and if you brush up against it, it is gone. So in my space, I thought, why don't I paint the walls and the ceiling of one space with chalkboard paint and then kind of go crazy. I did that with the intention of changing it regularly, and it has been up for 8 years. It has gotten weathered over the years from people passing through. I didn't anticipate what it would look like, but I actually really like the remnants of architecture that has been worn down with time. Lots of bags and coats. The kitchen was the only room up until recently that I didn't love in this apartment. I decided it was time to make this kitchen a little jewel box, make it everything that I have ever dreamed of in a kitchen, and most of the stuff I was able to just do myself. So the very first thing I started with was the wood paneling. I wanted the kitchen to feel like an old pre-war tenement kitchen. And it was really simple to just get this pine wainscoting, nail it up, and build up the moldings, the baseboards and the chair rail. I had a contractor come in and put in the crown molding. That wasn't there either. The other huge job that I did myself was I painted the cupboards. And that was a lot of work. I took all the doors off. I took all the shelves out, everything. was painted with oil paint, so it had to be primed and sanded and then painted 2 or 3 times. The glass wasn't this glass. It was just this frosted glass that was very modern looking. And something I love about old buildings is when you can look at the windows and you see these wavy panels of glass that are hand blown. When I was in high school and college, I spent all my summers working as a costumed historical interpreter at a place called Black Creek Pioneer Village. It's Canada's equivalent to colonial Williamsburg. It wasn't just life-changing because I learned so many manual skills, but being in that environment, in buildings that were 200 years old, utilitarian objects in these buildings were so beautiful. There were irons with little, like the handles were little swan's heads. And they didn't have to put a swan's head on that iron, but they did. That was the case with every single thing in these buildings. Useful things could be very beautiful. That really inspired me. Look at this sink. Look at this sink. It is handmade in England by Shaw's. Like everything that goes along with the whole dishwashing process now is fun because it's beautiful. Like this. Oh, hello, vintage Munich tea towel that I got when I lived in Germany. Oh, hello, hand-blown soap bottle with a little vintage spigot. Oh, hello, dishcloth that was hand-woven by my friend Deborah. And then we have the dishes. Working at Pioneer Village, I was introduced to old china and silverware. So I started collecting ironstone china. This is early American pressed glass. At an antique store, a glass like this would go for, I don't know, 30 bucks. But you can find stuff like this. If you know how to spot it, you can find it at like junk stores. So people come over and they've broken stuff before and they felt really bad. And I'm like, don't worry about it. It's fine, it's just $2. If it breaks, it's fine. If the marble gets stained, it already has some spots on it, and I love them. This is my silver. Not silver plate. There's a big difference. Every fork, every spoon in there averages about 100 bucks. I collected piece by piece since I was a little kid. Like I'd get my birthday money and I'd go and buy a fork. If you look very closely, you can see we have the lion en passant, which means that that was made in London. And then we have the leopard's head, which means that it was made in Great Britain. And then we have the monarch's head. And the monarch's head on this one is a young Queen Victoria. So this was made under Queen Victoria's reign. And then we have a letter, and the letter is a Q. So let's go to our book. There's Queen Victoria's head, 1854. They didn't have electric lights in 1854. This was made by natural light or by oil lamp. I'm obsessed. These are my cutting boards, which I made. I make soap with goat's milk, coconut oil, and olive oil, and then I put a little bit of frankincense and myrrh in it. That's exclusively what I use in here. I package it up too. Call it wise man's soap, the soap that Jesus would have used. Sometimes when people talk about me, they use that phrase, butcher, baker, candlestick maker. I haven't done any butchering. Another aspect of my time in the kitchen is cooking traditional Tamil food. So my parents are from Sri Lanka, and I am Tamil. That is an ethnicity and a language for those who don't know. And it is the best food in the world. And there are some very specific tools that are required to make this food, and the stuff is just so beautiful. This is used for a kind of rice patty that's made with rice flour mixed with some boiling water. You put the dough in here, put the plunger in, and then you squeeze out these vermicelli noodles onto these mats that are woven with strips of bamboo. And then those little patties get steamed. So that's another added aspect of the kitchen that I love. It's this mix of New York tenement and Sri Lanka. It's always been a dream to learn something on the piano. And when the pandemic started, I thought, okay, I am going to challenge myself to learn one Chopin nocturne. I just thought, let's just take it bar by bar. 1 bar, that's all. At the end of a year, I can now sort of play one nocturne. It has been really fulfilling to sit down at the piano and to be able to play one of his pieces from beginning to end. A lot of the stuff in here is actually from flea markets and thrift stores. New York has great flea markets and great thrift stores. People are coming and going and dying all the time, and you can find great stuff that's really, really affordable. The coffee table in the living room was 25 bucks, a nice sort of bronze frame, but it didn't have any glass in it. So I bought it, and then I got some mirror from just a glass store, and it was actually old mirror that they cut down to size. I wanted to actually make it look antique, so I distressed the mirror myself. You take some nasty stuff called muriatic acid and you spray it on the back of the mirror, and it starts to eat away at the silver. So it happens really quickly. You just you have to time it and get it to the level where you want it. If you leave it on for too long, it'll take off all the silver. Here is a little project about my friend who's obsessed with his cat, and I thought I should write a little kid's book. And this is a little story about Bernardo's cat, Agnes. Bernardo's a hipster who lives in Brooklyn. And the cat gets angry sometimes when he leaves. This is my landscape painting, which is a copy of a painting from the 1850s by an Irish painter, George Barrett. I have always dreamed of painting landscapes, and one of the ways artists have traditionally learned how to paint is actually by copying paintings by the masters. I printed this high-res image off the internet and zoomed in and worked on this very slowly for the course of 8 months. It's oil paint, so it had to be done in layers, and the layers often would have to dry before I did the next layer. But it was a big challenge that ended up working. I love this thing. This room is why I rented this apartment, because of the wonderful light that streams in really for most of the day. These lace curtains are pure cotton. It is very, very hard to find pure cotton lace today. Most mills that made this stuff are long gone. So one of the few places left in the world where they still weave the old way is in Lyon, France. And that's where this comes from. Lace curtains fluttering in the breeze. Look what's happening. Good boy. Yeah. Yeah. I was walking down the street one day years ago, and I saw a cab stop on the side of the road. The door opened, and this fluffy thing just jumped out and ran into a building where a doorman had opened the door for him. I was like, did I just imagine this? So some very careful detective work revealed to me that Prince lived down the street, and I befriended his owners. They offered to leave him here when they went out of town. I was taking a painting class at the Art Students League, and my teacher's mantra was paint what you see, not what you know. Once when I was doggy sitting Prince, I thought, let me try painting him, and it turned out great. I was really happy with the result. I love that dog so much. I apprentice with a wonderful potter in Connecticut. Guy Wolf makes all of Martha Stewart's flower pots. He's been making flower pots for most of his life. I read about him in Martha's magazine and was determined to learn from him, so I begged him to let me come and visit, and the rest is history. I've been going there for about 10 years now. This pot was made by Guy, this beautiful pot was made by Guy, and this pot was made by me. The bed is from the 1830s, and it's actually a little shorter than a normal twin bed. But then I found out that there's a mattress maker in the Bronx, Charles H. Beckley. They have been making mattresses, horsehair mattresses, by hand. They came here, measured the bed, made this wonderful mattress. It's really, really comfortable. Look at this. The corner is hand finished. So there are hand-tied springs in here, layers of horsehair and cotton. Great mattress. Well made, made to last. Remember Deborah, my weaver friend who made my towels in the kitchen? She made this for me too. I make a lot of things by hand. So when I'm going out and buying something, I want something that is well made. I lived in Germany for a year, and a very good friend of mine was telling me that her grandmother had a saying, "Wir sind zu arme, billig zu kaufen." We're too poor to buy cheap things. I feel like my bike is my best friend. It's from 1940, it was made in Munich. I brought it back with me. It's built to last. It's a solid steel frame. It has a great bell. Art supplies take priority over clothes for me. This is the bigger closet. The canvases are up there. This is full of beautiful wool. I always have a knitting project on the go. This is a hat in progress. All my books, paper, sketch pads, oil paints. During the pandemic, I thought I would try my hand at bookbinding, and I'm kind of hooked now. I made this a few weeks ago. It's a watercolor sketchbook. You need to have proper watercolor paper in order to have the pages stay flat so that they don't buckle and curl. Let's talk clothes. Oh, hello, Marie Kondo. So when I read Marie Kondo's book, that philosophy really spoke to me, that the objects that you have in your life should be meaningful to you and should make you happy. So I did it. I condoed this place. I got rid of anything that did not make me happy. Just the things that spark joy. There was a lot more. When I was a little kid, I watched The Sound of Music and I was like, I want to dress like that. But it didn't seem possible. And then I started working at Pioneer Village and was wearing tweed in my costume, fulfilled that tweed need. When I became an adult, I commissioned some tweed suits to be made, and then I really felt like these are my clothes. This is my style. Deborah wove this cloth. This suit took about 3 years to make. The sheep, she picked 2 different sheep that were 2 shades of brown. You can see the dark and the light, those are the 2 different sheep. It's lined with salmon colored silk. I just love it. I love the color combo. The other thing that's in this closet that I wear in the winter, I have 4 of them, are these sweaters called ganzis. They're fisherman sweaters. There's something really sentimental about these fisherman sweaters. They were a real working man's garment. Every village had their own pattern. So I found a knitting collective in Yorkshire where there's a group of women that still make ganzis the old way with real Yorkshire wool. And this is what came back. Knitted for me by Marion Brocklehurst, who is 93 this year, and she knits ganzis for Daniel Day-Lewis. It's like a hug. The clothes in there, they all have a story and they have meaning in them, and every time I put on something that was handmade, I'm thinking of the person that made it. If someone told me there was a shrine for Marie Kondo, I would go and worship at the shrine and take flowers and bow. That's how she got to me. Oh, what do we want to wear today? A nice gray t-shirt? Oh, maybe a striped one. Let's look through our blues. This space became a lot emptier after the whole Marie Kondo thing, but what it turned into was a kind of canvas, a kind of nice blank canvas for bringing things in that don't stay forever. Come in, they visit, they add joy, then they die, and my mind feels a lot lighter. Thanks for watching, and if you like this video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe to Handmade for more home tours just like this one.